Okay, welcome. This is just basically a demonstration to show how iRedmail can handle over 2 million users. It's just a follow-on from the video about Exchange 2013 with Windows Server 2012, where I was showing how they performed with that many users and how slow the interface was. So what this is just a similar amount of users I'm going to install on another email system, and let's see if it has the same problems that the Microsoft software has. Okay, so just going to get this going. Okay, so I'm going to do this from the beginning. Okay, this will go off the bottom of the screen a bit, but installing Centos that's the easy part, so you should already be used to that. Okay, so now I'm just going to install my usual tools. Okay, so now I just need to get the IP address so I can log in. Okay, so what we do next is go to the iRedmail site. Okay, and we just need to make a change to the host file just so the install will work. So we just run the installer file. Okay, now it's downloading the packages, but it's doing it silently, so we just have to wait for it. Okay, it's just doing the install now. Okay, now it's just getting the virus definition. Hopefully it won't take too long. Okay, so that's the installation finished. Now I just need to make some changes to the MySQL configuration just to speed it up a bit, because when we're loading the users in, it helps to have it using a bit, a lot more memory actually. Okay, and because we've made that change, we also have to remove the log files so that when it restarts, basically MySQL doesn't give you an error when it tries to restart. And yes, I'm deleting them while the server's still running, but MySQL seems to have no problem with that. It has to be said, even with that slow boot up, it's a lot quicker than the Server 2012 boots once you have Exchange installed, because of all the extra bloat that has to be included. Oh, yeah, one other thing I forgot. Keep forgetting this. That is, I must configure. Sorry. You have to make sure that the network interface is set to come up on boot. That network manager is not handling. Just activate it. Okay, so now the iRedmail is installed, and if we go to that IP address, And basically, to get to the admin page, just put iRedadmin after the IP address. And so the username is postmaster at the domain that you set up. So if we check the domains, we can see that we've got basically one user. So now the next part is where we install all the users into so I'm just going to copy some files over. Okay. Now, we don't need all of those files, but it's just convenient. Okay, so now comes the part where we load up our millions of users into iRedmail, and let's see if this ends up taking us a few days to do. And if it does, then well, that means Exchange isn't that bad after all, but we'll see. Okay, so what this is going to do is read each of the SQL files and then basically give you a time for how long it takes MySQL to load up each file into the database. You just see that it's running by just checking the load on the server. So remember, with Exchange 2013, we're loading up about, I don't know, 300,000 users can take over a day. So if just loading these users, which actually amounts to 700,000, so if this takes a day and a half, then that means that the fact that Exchange is so slow isn't a problem. But if it can do anything quicker than a day and a half, then that shows the advantage of using the less complicated open source systems, which basically are there just to get the job done, rather than having all these fancy features that you pay for but don't use. You can actually check the progress. If we go to the actual admin interface and then we refresh, as you can see, it's already loaded 391,000 users, which is about a day's worth for Exchange. So already you can see that Exchange is losing. And actually, while I'm waiting, I'll just make some changes to the postfix, just something I'm going to do later. Now normally you wouldn't get rid of this, but this is just for testing, because these are all been put in here to obviously help stop spam. Okay, looks like the first one's loaded up. It seems the system time was 3 minutes and 17 seconds, and that's a lot shorter than 1 day. So we'll see how long the other ones take to load as well. So like I said, these settings, you wouldn't normally disable them if you're running a real mail server, because they help to basically stop spam and get through. And that's one thing I'll say which is good about iRedmail, and that is that it is set up to stop spam like straight out the box. Whereas with Exchange, I didn't have to do anything. I could basically hammer it straight away with a program which can send lots of emails to it, and it didn't block them at all. So by default, Microsoft's setup is set in such a way so that the spammers can attack you and you have to manually go through and work out how to block them. Whereas with iRedmail, it's set up by default to block the spammers, and well, if you want to let them through, you have to actually do the work to do it. Okay, let's see how many users we got now. Okay, 1,100,000, so that's almost 2 days worth for Exchange. No, actually that's more than 2 days worth if I remember. Okay, I'm just getting a little bit more information that I'm just going to need for something I'm going to do later on. Okay, next one's finished. Okay, I was gonna skip past this bit, but I realized that those times probably aren't, that's just processing time. So it's probably worth me leaving this as real time so you can actually time it with a stopwatch. Because I think it is longer than 3 minutes, but that is still shorter than a day, so that's how many minutes difference it is, isn't that much of a concern. Okay, in this file, the iRedmail.tips, that basically tells you, gives you sort of information about the setup for if you want to make changes to it. As you can see, they believe in serious passwords as well, which isn't a surprise considering how things are now anyway. And of course, they've got DKIM as well. Okay, third one's finished, so only one more to go. So now we have over 2 million users just within this short space of time, which is, of course, untold times quicker than a few days. Okay, yeah, I'll just need this password for later on. And if you want to know how long it took, if you did skip, all you have to do is look at the time in top and just rewind back to what time it was when I first checked. You can roughly know how long it took. Okay, so that's finished. And yeah, so that took a lot less than almost a week. So looks like when it comes to loading up users, an open source mail system is where the business is. And you basically, if you want to load your 2 million users up, you definitely don't want to be doing it with Exchange, because having to wait such a long time. So in the end, it was 2,700,000. And the other good thing about this is that with Exchange, the limit of the sort of name is 20 characters. So that's why there are a lot less on Exchange than on here, because of course I presume the length is 255 characters, because MySQL doesn't really care, but for some reason Microsoft have limited what they're doing to limited their usernames to 20 characters for whatever reason. So that would then mean that Exchange isn't much use if you're trying to use it in Sri Lanka. So yet another sort of strike against it. Okay, so one thing you'll notice about this is that you can see all the users, and you can do things with them. You can go in to edit a user, see the settings. It works as you expect, and no, there isn't a long half-hour delay in order for you to have to click through this many users. But as you can see, there is one problem with this interface, and that is that if you want to find a specific user, you're gonna have a problem. So what I actually did is, I already have a project I've done before called Code Ignited Data Tables, which allows you to search and view sort of vast quantities of data. So because this interface obviously hasn't been hasn't been designed to handle something like this, so you still have a bit of a problem with your 2 million users in terms of trying to administer them. So what I've basically done is, I have a Code Ignited Data Tables that I've sort of amended so that it can read the iRedmail files, or database I should say. And so basically, I'm just going to check that it's in the right place. Okay, so there we have it, but basically, of course, that error is simply because I haven't given it the database details. So we'll just do that next. Email. That's where we need this information here. Okay, so if we give it another try. Just need to And here we are finally. And there we have it. So there you can see we have our users, and so in the list it's showing 1 to 5 of 2,733,708 entries. And we can scroll through our users and see at the moment it's 5 entries, but we could change that to 1,000. Then we wait. And there you have it. So 1,000 users. So it's a lot more convenient than the iRedmail admin program. Now, of course, this interface isn't finished, but the important thing was just to be able to show you that it could be accessed. And if you want to actually do a search for someone, and you just know a part of their name, so let's say we just tried Joe. You've got no idea what his last name is, so just put Joe in, and it'll find us all the users. So there's 5,000 in total with Joe, either at the beginning or if you're not sure what their, say you're after their surname instead. Yeah. So basically, using this search system, even though you've got a whole 2 million users, you don't have to wait an hour or half an hour for the interface on Microsoft Exchange to respond. You can get a pretty reasonable response. I mean, this is on a virtual machine. If you have MySQL, running on a high-end machine, then of course the response will be even quicker. And just to show that even though you can see these users, if it actually does work to an extent. So, okay, so basically, if you want to, say, look at one of the records, we can go to, I don't know, say page 3, just check any records, scroll down, and you want to view it, and there it is. So the data's there, and yes, it can actually read the database without a problem, even with 2 million users, without you having to wait half an hour for it to respond. And of course, what edit doesn't work here. And if you want to delete a user, that works as well. The easiest one is just to show you at the beginning. So if we delete this user, so at the moment we've got 2,733,708 users. So we delete this one. And now we've got 707. And just to show that if you want to get rid of a whole mass of them, so say we want to get rid of everyone who's Jones. So we've got 2,000 entries to get rid of. Now you'd think that would take forever in Exchange, where you have to either go into the shell and type it in and then wait hours for it to finish, or you can instead use a more advanced system which allows you to select all of those entries you've searched for, and then you can go to the next page and select all those ones. Of course, this does depend on how fast your browser is. If your machine that you're using is a bit slower, then yeah, this can take a while. So they've selected all the users on that page. Now you might think that you've wasted the other selections, but if you go back to page 2, selections are still there. Page 1, selection still there. So there we have all the users of Jones all selected. So we had 2,733,000 before. So if we delete these, have it. So the records are successfully deleted. And we have 2,730 entries left. So that goes to show that this really can access all those users properly without you having to wait sort of minutes or hours for the interface to actually do anything, which seems to show me that this is, if you're going to put 1 million users into your mail system, then Microsoft's Exchange is just not going to really cut it, basically, for how slow it is. And you're going to have to think about using basically a more serious system. Okay, thanks. Bye.